Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Pennyworth. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So obviously, we had the whole situation where Alfred as well as Dayboy are kind of assuming after the events of last episode that they're as good as toast. That obviously they know it's only a matter of time since for the Prime Minister to call them up and everything. And I do love that obviously his mom, it's like, oh, I should kick you out. He's like, wait, really? You're kicking me out? She's like, no. But it might just be the kick in the pants you need, because it's like, oh, you need to find someone else, because you're up here moping, you've been moping since the last week about her. Maybe you need to find you a nice girl, not someone that's a rebel or anything like that. And I love that Roger's like, I told her she just should leave you be, I'm ending time or something like that. And it's like, cheers, Roger. I like that. Like, Alfie kind of going with the swing of things, but I do appreciate, like, Roger kind of playing that stepfather role. I thought that was really neat. He's like, yeah, I told your mom you just needed time. And I was like, that's really nice, Roger. You're alright, Roger. You're alright. But yeah, he gets called in. Dayboy has an argument with Sally, because he's like, yeah, this whole situation, it's kind of effed up, and sadly, Sally should have listened to, Dayboy about, like, but she felt like, oh, he hadn't broadened his horizons. It's like, well, you're the one that should broaden your horizons. I think with everything going on, Dayboy was kind of like a little antagonistic, so it's just kind of a snap back and forth. But he was like, yeah, but I did enjoy our time together. I'm glad I met you. And she's like, I'm glad I met you too, because she didn't know what was going on. But she was like, bye. Like, so you can tell, like, it did hurt. Like, she does care for him. So there's that whole situation, and even obviously Martha's carrying something. I mean, I like our four, Dayboy, Alfie, Lucius, and Martha are all kind of carrying something this episode, and even Gully. Whereas, because Martha's worried about Thomas, Patricia shows up. Obviously, she's here for Francis. Francis is like latest, performance and stuff like that, his performance piece and stuff. So that's her main reason here. But she's also, playing, came to check on her niece and stuff. But it turns out that we've learned that Thomas has basically thrown himself into work, which I think is going to be, I mean, obviously it's like, hey, everyone loved that line. She's like, well, I wouldn't she was like, well, I don't recommend having your father murdered in an alley or something. I'm like, how about your father and your mother? Ugh. But nevertheless, it is a thing of he's throwing himself into work so he doesn't have to feel what he feels, And I think maybe, once again, this all has to be a spiraling point leading things to whether Thomas's story ends up being, whether he goes down a very dark route, when it comes to, like, Wayne Enterprises, when it comes to everything, but he's throwing himself into work, and this could be the beginning of what leads to the fallout to eventually his death. Like, maybe, once again, it just depends on in this continuity whether they're leaning to the, oh man, the Waynes did some fucked up shit, and, or it's just kind of like, yeah, no, they were the entrepreneurs, there was no dark secret, but I think the dark secret stuff, making them not the clean prestige, like, billionaires, with inflation and stuff, because they were millionaires in the past, but they are, like, Bruce is a billionaire, and, like, I think most modern continuities, just to kind of just show how absorbently rich the Wayne family was. Regardless, because most things kind of make them seem altruistic, like they were good people, but by showing that they were flawed, that they were human, it adds this kind of, like, complicated thing for Bruce to come to terms with, like, oh, my parents, like, the people I want to get justice for weren't always the greatest people, Specifically his dad. It's not always his mom, but maybe it could, like, sometimes his mom is mixed up in what, because I think sometimes she's just a byproduct of what he got mixed up in. I mean, when you look at where they both started out at the beginning of this series, kind of down their own paths, and obviously how that converged together for them over the course of this series so far. Either way, it's just interesting to know that, and obviously she hasn't talked to Thomas at all since before he left, and obviously it's like he's cutting off all ties with her and Sam, because I think he feels like he doesn't deserve to come home, like, after doing what he's done, because it's like, right, I came here for a purpose, but now it's like, how can I fix my family when I've broken it? He probably believes his family's broken beyond repair, that he's broken beyond repair. So and Lucius is dealing with the fact is that his that whole situation with the PWEs, because the general public, the only one they respect and care about is Captain Blighty, and it's like outside of that, they look at the PWEs as abominations. And Lucius is like, no, given enough time, things are changing little by little, and the world will accept you just like you. People with enhancements will be the same thing as being left-handed or ginger. What I'm going to point out, people don't like gingers either. It's like, that's the sad truth. You know, it's like, yeah, like, are you forgetting like the whole like stupid thing of like, oh, gingers have no soul type of thing. You know, it's like Lucius used the worst example. You know, so it's like, oh, geez, that. Once again, I still don't even know where the hell that came from. Why that's ever been a thing. That general that thing against redheads. I don't know why that's a thing, but either way, there's also Gully himself. He's getting weaker and weaker by the day, but he says that line, and you can tell that's what this episode is going to be about. He's like, oh, he's just looking for a good battle. He's just looking for a good death, dying on the battlefield. Because for him, it's like, I should have died years ago, but I've been here, I'm stuck here, and it's like, I don't want to be this anymore. I'm tired. I just want to rest. I want to go out in a blaze of glory, like in battle, which I should have died for Queen and Country years ago, but I'm still here. I'm just looking for a good death, just a good death. So him, Alfie, and Dave Boy get put on a mission. They got to take down the point was to capture him for obvious reasons. They wanted to capture this PWE, who basically has lightning powers, and basically he's been messing with the power grid. And so it's like, yeah, all your things last episode, it's like, actually, we'll let that slide because it actually benefits us, because with Zara's father back, it actually makes the leader of their country kind of nervous and more reliant upon us. So it kind of benefited us in the long run. So they still kind of keep somewhat of the status quo, kind of being able to kind of reign control of the country because they have its leader in their back pocket, right? So there's that whole situation. But it's like, yeah, General, Thursday is not too keen on this. He wants to have boots on the ground. I wonder why Aziz wanted, I guess because showing too much of a military force is going to put the PWEs in a negative light, and he doesn't want that. He wants them, because he's like, we need these enhanced people, because like, if we can get them a part of our unit, if we can get them like seen in a good light, just like Gully, as you know, Captain Blighty, then it's like people will accept it when they're all eventually brought into the fold of like being a representation of our military might. I mean, once again, that's all that comes down to, is like, you know, the government getting their hands on PWEs is just about finding a way to control that and turn it into like a military might. So, and I guess it's like if Thursday comes stomping in, it's like, oh, here's the U.S. government to wipe this off the map type of situation. It's going to just fuel that hate already. And once again, Aziz needs the public on the PWE side to support them being part of the military and stuff. You need that. So I guess that's why he sent in. He wanted a small team and a non-military small team to kind of handle this. So. But yeah, before even going on this mission, obviously Dave Boy's in a sour mood because of the way he left things off with Sally. And then there's also the situation with Alfie when he finds out, oh, Sandra, the letter she wrote to him was about her being pregnant. He's like, yeah. She's like, yeah, I left that letter with Dave Boy. And he's looking like, Dave Boy's like, I didn't get a letter. He's like, yeah, that might have been when I was fucked up. And it's like, are you serious? He's like, what? This isn't my fault. I'm like, it's 100% your fault, Dave Boy. You don't wait the fucking letter, you idiot. I mean, yes, you were blitzed out your goddamn mind, but still. Yeah. And obviously Alfie didn't know how to respond to that, which I'm like, oh, are we doing certain because I referenced her earlier in the season, like Julia Pennyworth, and it's like, oh, that's interesting. But I'm like, well, you have to keep your fingers crossed because we don't know how the pregnancy's gonna play. It's effed up to say, but yeah, I mean, you don't know, you know. I mean, it's like we could have kind of a Sam situation, or it could just be like hopefully it works out. Well, because once again, I looked into it because I never knew this. I guess that Alfie's kind of a deadbeat dad, kind of. I mean, I guess it just depends on the continuity, but I think in the comics, at least, he wasn't really there for her and her mom. which would kind of play into the whole him and Sandra's relationship. I mean, it's kind of always been it's always been an in and out thing for both of them. So, but Alfie doesn't know how to handle it. I think it's also because of the whole thing of like, yeah, it kind of got sprung on him, you know, because like Alfie hasn't like purposely like he's had relationship after relationship, but he's never like the last person like he was like with was Esme, you know. Like that, he was like, "Oh, I was going to marry her and everything." Like he saw a lot, and ever since then, and once again, it's that conversation he had with Zara where he just doesn't believe that he kind of deserves that happiness, that his ghosts are chasing him, and he hasn't like come to terms with it. Well, he's still doing that, coming to terms with his ghost, and he just kind of feels like he doesn't deserve to kind of live that life, and so that's why he puts up walls and kind of keeps people at a distance. So yeah, he likes Zara, but it's almost, I think it's almost that thing of, yeah, you're always going to end up picking people who are unavailable, or, you know, it's like it was never going to work out considering your history, and just like she has to go, you know. So I don't know, it's definitely going to be interesting to see. Well, we got the end result, but that's only because of Goalie, because they obviously, Dave Boy and Alfie weren't on good terms throughout this episode, but because obviously Goalie's not too happy about them tagging along just because they want to keep an eye on him. But ultimately, the moment he finds out Alfie's a dad, he's like, "Oh, this is something worth fighting for." He's like, "Yeah, like that's something good, that's something noble." And Alfie's like, "Wait, is this something we really should be talking about now during this situation?" Because they're going up against a lightning guy. Because I thought I saw someone in the trailer. It might not have been the same person. Because I was like, I figured they weren't going to do like a black lightning thing. But I figured, I was like, oh, it's actually interesting. I saw video about something. I won't turn it into that conversation, but I thought it was kind of interesting for whatever reason. I was like, what's the correlation there? I saw a video referencing kind of like characters like Black Lightning and Static Shock. I'll leave it at that. If you've seen the video, I haven't seen the video. I just came across. I didn't watch it, but I thought I was like, oh man, that's kind of interesting, huh? This episode kind of plays into that. What the episode is about. It's just an interesting thing. I'm not trying to say anything. I just thought it was interesting when someone was like, "Oh, why do black superheroes typically have electricity powers?" That was kind of like what the video was about. Like I said, I didn't see it. I just come across. I was like, "Huh, that's kind of interesting." You use like Black Lightning, Static Shock. Even this guy being black has electrical powers. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe there's a deeper reason behind it. Like I said, I don't know. Either way. So. I guess this guy just wanted like it's like, right, I'm this thing. His name's Mr. Thompson. Like, he was just kind of like, no. Like, I'm going to absorb all this power and just fry everything. I guess he's just lashing out at the world because of what he... I mean, I guess it's kind of like a lot of the PWEs to begin with, but I don't know what his ultimate goal was, but I'm assuming he was just going to stay at the power station and keep like sucking up power, because the whole point was like to bring him in alive, because yeah, they needed him alive, because it's like, right, we don't want someone with powers to disappear, we need to make use of them. That's the whole point. So that's why they're meant to be captured alive and not dead. But ultimately Goalie's not strong enough on his own, like, because he's obviously gotten weaker and weaker. Going toe-to-toe with this guy isn't easy, so... And his guy even says, like, oh, he used to look up to Captain Blighty, and it's like, wow, you used to have a poster of you on my wall, and he's like, oh, yeah, the fact of the matter is, when you killed people, like, he's like, yo, during the War of Liberation, a head would go flying for like a mile away. He's like, oh, must have felt good. He's like, no, that was for Queen and Country. He's like, nah, come on, it was about the power, right? So that's why I'm like, yeah, he has to be kind of just power hungry and just like, I just want to fuck shit up. Like, I just want to cause as much devastation as possible. Like I said, I think he's just lashing out because he's like, yeah, I woke up one day and this had happened to me. Because it does seem like the way Goalie says it, some of the PWEs did it to themselves, but a lot, like, just happened to them, so... they go toe-to-toe and Goalie doesn't win, but for Goalie it's like, nah, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna make sure you get out of this alive. Alfie as a father, in fact, he knocked him out and told Dave Boy to get him out of here. So despite everything, goes toe-to-toe with him and was going, he's like, end him. And oh boy did he end him, because like obviously he was going to kill Alfie, and that's when Goalie really got into it. Yo, the blast, I was like, this show's gotten like pretty, I mean, this show hasn't been like super hardcore like it has been. Because I mean, like there was some depths in this show that got real gory and nasty. But like this one, I was like, "Are you gonna blow?" Okay, so it's not. I was almost expecting like, "Oh, is his head gonna blow up?" It's like no, but it's a laser. It's basically almost like a laser through the head. I was like, that's. And obviously from like a cinematic like standpoint, and just like especially like how like that illumination on his head when the blast went through, I was like, "Woo." Yeah, I mean, Goalie promised he wasn't just going to take you in, he was going to kill you. But for Goalie, it's like, yeah, this is my opportunity to go out swinging, It's like, right, I can do more for the cause for PWEs as a martyr, because people see me as a symbol of someone. But also, it's like, was that going through your mind? It's hard to say whether that was really on your mind when you were making this decision. You just didn't want to fight anymore. You needed a battlefield to die on. Because you always felt like this is how it was always going to end. He had nothing for him. I mean, we already met him earlier in the season. He was suicidal, had nothing to live for. And so that's just gotten worse and worse over the course of the season. But he's like, promise me, Alfie, that you will do right by your child. And he's like, I promise this. Yeah, good. And he's like, I love you, Alfie. And that is that complicated thing. And like, were we friends? It's like, there was a yes and no to that. We were friends. We were enemies. We loved each other. We hated each other. We were everything and all things, He was someone I respected. Once again, he was someone I hated, And that complicated thing, it's like, right. He had his issues, but Goalie was, they were proud to serve under, And so this is kind of what he wanted in the end. And everyone gathered in the bar, which Chandler's like, it's kind of super unsanitary that we're having a dead body here in a bar, a pub. Sure, whatever, so it's like, yeah, it's a quiet night. It's like, Chandler's like, yeah, I wonder why it's a quiet night. Why no one's decided to just like stroll into this pub. But yeah. And for Alfie, it's like, no, I'm going to do what, I'm going to keep my promise to Goalie. And he goes to Sandra and he proposes to her. It's like, Sandra's always wanted to be with Alfie, but he just never went down that route. And for him, it's like, no, like, we need to get married and have this baby. Like, that's, it's like, you don't necessarily have to, but I guess specifically at this point in time, your mom probably wouldn't want you to have a baby out of wedlock. That'd be super frowned upon. So there's that. So he's like, right, us being married, this is the gesture. I don't know if she's going to accept it or not. She might be like, no, we shouldn't just get married for the sake of the baby. You want to be in the baby's life, sure. But it also comes down to what Sally wants to do, because she wanted his input too, but she didn't know where he stood on it. But now he's like, no, I'm going to try and do right by you and this baby. So we'll see how ultimately that ends up playing out. So once again, considering like I said, because that's my only experience, like this will be my first experience with like potentially him as a father, because it never came up. He wasn't a father in Gotham. Except to Bruce. I guess that takes that back. It's like, well, you've seen him be a father figure to Bruce, but like to your own child and stuff like that. Because I guess it depends on whether or not Julia exists in some of those continuities. Because obviously she existed in Batwoman, but we never got to see her and her dad's relationship because Alfred's dead in that continuity. So. So we've never really seen that interaction as him as a straight up father, but it's like, once again, yes, we did because of him raising Bruce, and maybe that also leads to the whole Julia thing. Like, right, he wasn't much of a father to Julia, but maybe he was more of a father to Bruce, and that's kind of the effed up thing, So maybe that could end up being a whole thing within itself, which is just interesting and once again poetic, just because obviously he has his connections to the Waynes, but also his mom is nanny to their daughter, so it's all what's the word? The serendipity all to it all, Either way. So speaking of Martha, her and Lucius talk in this episode because she realizes that he's the one that leaked the file to her. It's like, right, you're the one that told me about level 7 and stuff like that. And he's like, right, you've got the Prime Minister's ear. You're the one that has to do something about it because I can't jeopardize my position because the PWEs need me. So I can't jeopardize, because if I lose my position there's a good chance that someone else will step in and that'll give them the opportunity to take advantage of them. So Lucius is like, I can't do this, and Martha was disappointed in him. But later on, when he comes back, it was already too late. General Thursday moved on it and snatched up all the PWEs. I guess he used this opportunity with Goalie's death, like, right, we're going to need to kind of replace. We're going to need a Captain Blighty replacement, so bringing them into the fold. So because it isn't just because we don't like, for example, we don't know if Mr. Thompson this episode, because he said like he got snatched up like a month ago, and that's when all this happened to him. So we don't know if that was still John Salt or whether, because the UK government has the taken over Salt's thing, like probably 80 PWEs he had in the work, as well as replicating it. They're bidding up to it. So it's like Aziz has to, as prime minister, he has to know what's what. But I guess maybe there's just there's some things that even he doesn't have control over, or because that's going to be the interesting thing. Because you would assume as prime minister, he probably knows what's going on, even co-signed a lot of that. But maybe not. Maybe there's still things. Maybe even he doesn't have purview over what General Thursday's 100% mixed up in. So this could all be happening behind his back. But Lucic made the decision, like, no, these people are his responsibility, and he can't just sit on the sidelines anymore, like, making excuses. It's like, no, they need my help, so no matter what the cost, he's like, I'm going to be the one to handle this, telling Martha that this is his responsibility. So we'll see how things kind of play out on that front. And then finally, we have the Francis situation. The doctor behind Lullaby and everything is telling him that now it's starting, like, once again, you need, because he had talked about it previously, you need to, like, when you're mind controlling people, you need them to have something to focus on, because if you don't, they can run wild, because the human condition, we are animals at our base instincts. Lust, and anger are at the very like core of that. So it's like if you don't give them a direction, if you don't mold them properly, you're letting them loose. Which for folks, it's like, yeah, that's what I want. Like for Francis, it's like, that's what I want. I want people to run rampant. But the thing is, a side effect of this is that the doctor's noticing, like, yeah, but the lullaby is spreading about people. He was like, yeah, you start off with 2, then went into 10, and now 20, and there's going to be 50 or 60 people at this party. He's like, it's starting to, like, if other people are starting to be affected by other people's delusions and hallucinations, that's bad. This is spreading like wildfire. I guess it's almost like, because I guess because Legion is on my mind, it's almost like this, spreading delusion spreading like a disease amongst people, and we kind of see the end result of that this episode, where it turns out Francis left the party. He's going to spread stuff even more. Patricia goes there, and I was like, is Sally going to be one of them? Sally's sitting at the table because she didn't drink the tea, and she's telling Patricia not. And at the head of the table is the doctor, a whole bunch of knives in him. So it's like, cool, everyone's around her wearing the Guy Fawkes mask. So it's like, hopefully they find themselves okay out of that situation, because I was worried going in. I was like, are they gonna all of a sudden like stab her and kill her? Like, Patricia tends to find herself in some very culty situations time and time again. Once again, after the whole Crowley situation back in season 1, and now this, hopefully that turns out okay, but you never know what's going to happen on that front. So obviously, it seems like going forward, the PWE thing is going to be a big thing, and because I think there's only 2 episodes left this season, so that in conjunction with all this lullaby stuff, what kind of sparks that's going to set in motion, and what that's going to do when Francis is done doing what he's doing. Because in his mind, he's setting people free, and like being whatever they are, freedom is what he wants, and he doesn't care what form it takes on, because whatever form that humans take, when they're free, freedom is all that matters. He doesn't care what the end result is going to be, whether he sets people loose and they kill other people. Yeah, it is what it is. And I guess he no longer needed the doctor, so whatever their freedom told them to do, to kill the doctor, whether he aimed it at whatever the case may be, whether he pointed his people at the doctor in particular, or he just let that happen. It's like, right, whatever choices they make is their choices, So we'll see where all this ultimately ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.